There is literally nothing dumber looking than a big truck going down the road with a bunch of MAGA flags and a bunch of American flags flying off of it. Well, don't worry. Pretty soon, those same trucks, they'll be flying the Qatar flag. Yes, Qatar, who bought their hero Trump for $400 million by giving him a plane. So Qatar will now have an Air Force base in Idaho. But not to be outdone, Russia will be building their next army base somewhere in Montana, maybe near the Yellowstone Ranch. And then Texas, I hear Texas is going to be building an army base for North Korea. But don't worry, MAGA, because not to be outdone is Florida. Yes, Florida. They'll be building the Taliban terrorist base somewhere in Florida. MAGA, you people, I mean, when are you going to wake up? When?
Why would Qatar give Donald Trump a $4 million luxury jumbo jet and fund a $5.5 billion Trump-branded luxury golf course and villa resort? What's in it for them? Well, we're about to find out. Well, Friday, Pete Hegseth came on and made a major announcement that Laura Loomer and a lot of other right-wing Trump supporters were not happy about. He announced the U.S. military is moving forward with the plans to build a dedicated facility in Idaho to train the Qatar pilots alongside the American troops for the F-15 pilot training. Now, does that sound like Donald Trump's agenda? Put America first? Now, this isn't unusual. Similar facilities have been created for allies for decades. And the Idaho facility hosts a fighter squadron for Singapore. But however, Laura Loomer states, it's an abomination. She even went on to accuse the Qataris of being associated with an Islamic terror organization. And if you thought that was it, you were sadly mistaken, because Trump went on to sign an executive order that pledged to give the tiny, energy-rich, non-NATO ally the same level of protection from the U.S. as some of America's most powerful allies. Is it just business, or is there something more? Comment your take. Smart diplomacy or dangerous game? Like, share, and follow for more deep dives on shadow diplomacy.
Qatar, Idaho, a military training facility, and mass confusion. Right now, the internet is melting down over an announcement that Qatar will operate a training facility at a U.S. airbase in Idaho, and Americans have no idea what's actually happening. Some think Qatar is building an entire military base on American soil. Others think it's routine. Most people are just confused and angry. Here's the reality. Qatar bought F-15 fighter jets from us. We're training their pilots to fly them. Standard military partnership. Happens all the time. But here's why this blew up. A massive Boeing 747 was just gifted to the administration from Qatar months ago. Now they get military access on U.S. soil. The timing looks terrible. Add to that, this is the same administration that ran on America First, banned travel from Muslim countries, and called Qatar a terror sponsor. Now they're rolling out the red carpet. Half the country thinks this is treason. The other half doesn't even know it's happening, and almost nobody understands what's actually true. So today we're cutting through the noise to explain what's real, what's not, and why Americans are so divided over what should be straightforward policy. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's get into it.
Let me get this straight. We are building a Qatari Air Force base in Idaho. The same Qatar who funds Hamas? Wait, the same Qatar who gave President Trump his brand new Air Force One jet? that Qatar, the one that's not an ally, all while U.S. troops aren't getting their paychecks because we're on day 10 of a government shutdown. Oh wait, and this is in the same week where we're bailing out Argentina and giving them $20 billion? So all the people who said they voted for Trump because of America First, do you think that this is America First?
Well, breaking fuck the news. The Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, just announced that Qatar will have a new facility in America, in Idaho, that will train Qatari, I think is what you said, Qatari Air pilots to fly F-15s. You guys remember like a few months back when...
Okay, so allowing Qatar to build an Air Force base inside the United States of America. This has to be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard from any administration ever.
MAGA is very upset about Qatar having a training facility in the United States, saying things like, I did not vote for this, or I feel like if you sponsor Hamas, you shouldn't get a base in the US. What am I missing here? And they have the right to be upset because this announcement from Pete Hegseth comes mere months after Trump accepted a gift from the Qatari government, a gift that came in the form of a 747 jet that is now costing US taxpayers $2 billion to retrofit it with all of the necessary equipment to make it airworthy for a US president. Many of the people that are now upset that Qatar is getting a training base in the United States were celebrating the fact that Trump received a gift from the Qatari government months ago, even with accusations of possible emoluments clause violations raining down from the Democratic side.
There it is, the emoluments clause. This is the real story everyone's missing. See, the outrage about Qatar building a base is mostly noise, but accepting a $400 million aircraft from a foreign government, that's the actual problem. Because when officials take expensive gifts from foreign powers, it creates obvious conflicts of interest. And now, months later, that same country gets military access on US soil? Come on. The dots aren't even hard to connect. This isn't about whether training facilities are normal. They are. It's about whether this particular deal happened because of that jet. And if it did, that's not diplomacy. That's a transaction. For everyone screaming America first, this is what happens when you elect people who treat the presidency like a business opportunity. Foreign policy becomes transactional. National interest takes a back seat to personal benefit. You wanted businessmen in the White House? Well, businessmen make deals, and sometimes you're not going to like who they're dealing with.
Ultimately, if this gift from the Qatari government came with a few stipulations, that would violate the emoluments clause, and it would be an impeachable offense, but only time will tell if anything comes of this.
So I'm just trying to combat a little bit of misinformation that's going out right now. There's not going to be a Qatari base built in Idaho. That is not what was said. Pete Hegseth said that they're putting a facility at a base that's already in Idaho. And this facility is going to be for the Qatari Air Force to learn to fly some of the American jets. They are not building a whole base for Qatar. They are giving them a spot at a base that is already in Idaho. Just clearing some of that up. Because this, like I said, we are in a battle of misinformation, and a lot of people are just grabbing on and reporting so that they can get views, and it just causes a lot of confusion. There's a lot of misinformation going on. Y'all got to slow down and start figuring this stuff out. God bless.
He's talking sense. Because yes, there's a massive amount of misinformation flying around right now. People are saying Qatar is building an entire military base. They're not. They're getting a training facility within an existing U.S. base, under U.S. command. This isn't unprecedented. Singapore already does this at Mountain Home. The U.K. trains troops here. Germany does too. It's called a training detachment, and it's been happening for decades. But here's where the nuance matters. Just because it's normal doesn't mean it's not problematic. The issue isn't the facility itself, it's who's getting it and why. Qatar isn't exactly our closest ally. This administration called them terror sponsors back in 2017. So why the sudden change? What shifted? Oh right, a $400 million jet changed hands. So to everyone rage posting without understanding what's actually happening, slow down, read past the headline, figure out what the real issue is. Because if you're mad about the wrong thing, you're just making noise, and noise doesn't hold anyone accountable.
So let me get this straight. We are building a Qatari Air Force base in Idaho. The same Qatar who funds Hamas? Wait, the same Qatar who gave President Trump his brand new Air Force One jet, that Qatar, the one that's not an ally, all while U.S. troops aren't getting their paychecks because we're on day 10 of a government shutdown. Oh wait, and this is in the same week where we're bailing out Argentina and giving them $20 billion? So, all the people who said they voted for Trump because of America First, do you think that this is America First?
So let me get this straight. The United States just approved Qatar to be able to use a U.S. military air base in Idaho. I don't know about you, but I don't feel right about letting any foreign country set up a military base or even have access to our military bases here in America. And when Steve Bannon is the voice of reason, you know it's fucked up.
When Steve Bannon sounds reasonable, you know something's deeply wrong. And honestly, that tracks, because this announcement is a mess. The defense secretary fumbled the wording, created mass confusion, and now Fox News is doing cleanup trying to explain what he actually meant. Here's the thing. When you put someone in a role they're not prepared for, you get moments like this. Vague language, poor communication, zero clarity, and now millions of people think Qatar is building an independent military installation in the heartland. This is what happens when you prioritize loyalty over competence. You get people who look good on TV but can't explain basic policy without causing a national panic. And for MAGA supporters who are shocked right now, you voted for this. You wanted outsiders. You got them. And this is what that looks like.
The timing of this seems super weird considering that he was gifted a jet from Qatar. I don't know, dude. I feel like we're being sold out.
So once again, Whiskey Pete Hegseth has misspoken. We are not building, Qatar is not building a military base in Idaho. They are not. There was part of an agreement deal between Israel and Gaza that they were going to train the Qatari Air Force with their F-15s or whatever they are. And that's what's going to happen in Idaho. We're going to train them on how to use these jets, but they're not getting their own air base in a foreign country, which is the United States. The United States is not hosting a foreign country on our military base. It's not happening. It's not real. Even Fox News, I think, is kind of explaining to everybody right now that Pete Hegseth completely misspoke. He made everybody freak out. Everybody thought, oh, they're going to build a military base, a Qatar military base in Idaho. Okay. On a secure U.S. military base. Oh, yeah.
Okay, TikTokers. I guess we've got some major irony going on in our country again today. Weird. So apparently we're now not afraid of people from the Middle East and Islam like we have been saying about like our House of Representative people and stuff like that. And the guy running for mayor of New York. But now we're letting another country build an Air Force base, basically, in Idaho. I guess I just don't understand that. But maybe it's not a full Air Force base, but still, we're training their pilots. But I'm a little confused about this. I guess that's what a new jet gets you. You get to do whatever you want. It's just so much irony these days.
So today, Pete Hegseth announced that the United States has made a deal allowing Qatar to build its own Air Force facility right here in the United States. This is not normal. Other countries do send troops here for training at our bases, but they don't build infrastructure on our military bases and in our country. This is different. Qatar isn't just sending people. They're apparently building infrastructure. That's a pretty big step, and it raises some real questions about what kind of relationship this really is. It's especially surprising because not that long ago, some of the same leaders now approving this deal were accusing Qatar of supporting terrorism. So now what has changed? And why now? Could this have anything to do with the fact that President Trump accepted a personal gift of a $400 million Boeing 747 from the Qatari royal family just a few months ago? What is going on? When decisions like this happen without clear answers, it makes people wonder who these choices are really serving and what America first actually means to these guys when they're inviting foreign countries to build military facilities here in the United States. Something just isn't right about that.
Something isn't right, but not for the reasons most people think. Because America first was supposed to mean putting U.S. interests above foreign powers, right? No foreign influence, no shady deals, no globalist agendas. But what does it actually mean when officials accept a $400 million jet from Qatar, then give them military access on U.S. soil? When you bail out Argentina with $20 billion while American farmers are going bankrupt? When you cut funding for rural programs but find money to retrofit a foreign luxury plane? It means America first was always branding. It was a slogan, a campaign tool, not a policy. And the people who believed it, they're starting to realize they got sold. Because the decisions being made aren't serving American workers, American families, or American sovereignty. They're serving whoever pays the most, whoever offers the best deal, whoever strokes the ego. This is transactional leadership at its finest. And if you voted for it thinking you'd be protected, well, welcome to the fine print.
We have breaking news right now. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has announced that the Qatari government will build a Qatari Air Force facility on United States soil in Idaho. Yes, I'm serious. He just made a statement alongside a Qatari official at the Pentagon where he said, quote, "I'm proud that today we're signing a letter of acceptance to build a Qatari Emiri Air Force facility at the Mountain Home Air Base in Idaho. It will house Qatari F-15 fighter jets and Qatari troops on American soil. The Qatari government will now have what is akin to an Air Force base within the United States of America in Idaho." Remember, this is the same government that gave Donald Trump as a gift a massive Boeing 747 jet that he will soon use as Air Force One. Spread the word. Full updates on my Substack, linked in bio. Subscribe for free. Follow along, stay up to date on all the news you need to know about. I'll have much more to come soon.
Qatar wants to build an air base in Idaho. But don't panic just yet. Let me tell you what that's really mean and what's really happening. Earlier today, reports said that Trump allowed Qatar to build an Air Force facility in Idaho to host Qatari troops. Big headline, but it's a bit misleading. This isn't a Qatar base on U.S. soil. It's a training detachment within Mountain Home Air Force Base, based under U.S. command. It's similar to how Singapore operates there. Qatar will send F-15s and crews to train with the USAF. There's already a Pentagon environmental review from 2022. 12 Qatar F-15s, 300 personnel over 10 years, infrastructure upgrades, etc. The plan was already underway, okay? So, why is it so dramatic now? Because this move deepens U.S.-Qatar alignment and follows Trump's security assurances to Qatar and its mediation in Gaza. It's geopolitical, not just headlines. So, facts first, it's training, not stationing. But keep watching for details on cost, legal status, and command structure. Don't let drama drown out truth, okay? And stay calm.
Qatar is not building an Air Force base in Idaho. I know people on this app and even some of the mainstream media is saying that that's what Pete Hegseth said, but that's not true. Pete Hegseth was only a major in the National Guard. He doesn't know what he's talking about half the time, and Trump surely doesn't know what he's talking about. So when they go off the cuff at a press conference and say something, you need to take that with a grain of salt and be like, is what he just said even possible? And it's not. So let me help you out. Qatar has been cozying up to the Trump administration for quite some time now.
Yes, exactly. Cozying up is putting it mildly. Qatar didn't just randomly decide to buy F-15s from us. They've been building a relationship with this administration for years. Investments in properties, business deals, and now a $400 million gift that conveniently became the new Air Force One. This is how soft influence works. It's not briefcases of cash in a parking garage. It's luxury jets, golf course deals, training facilities. And the genius of it is that it's all technically legal. There's no smoking gun, just a pattern of favors, gifts, and policy decisions that all line up a little too perfectly. So when people ask, is this a bribe? The answer is, legally, probably not. Ethically? And here's the lesson for everyone watching. This is what happens when you don't enforce ethics rules, when you don't care about conflicts of interest, when you elect people who openly mix business with politics. You get a government that's for sale, and the highest bidder wins.
They bought a bunch of F-15s from us, and part of the ceasefire deal in Gaza said that the Americans would train the Qatari Air Force on how to fly those F-15s. And we're going to do that. So what Pete Hegseth should have said today is that the United States will host Qatar's Air Force for training in Idaho. And now Fox News, of all people, is trying to double back and re-clarify what Pete Hegseth said, because people started flipping out at the idea that we would allow Qatar to build an independent Air Force base on American soil on a secured facility, which we were never going to do. And even if we did want to do something like that, it would have to pass a congressional and Senate budget package. Something like, oh, we're going to let somebody else build a military base on American soil would never even make it out of committee. It would never happen. So no, Qatar is not building a military base in Idaho. This is why I say people who don't understand the military should be extra cautious when they are reporting on military operations. And mainstream media and creators alike should not just be parroting the things that Trump says. That's how we make narratives that are untrue true. See the video before this. Qatar is going to send some of their Air Force pilots to Idaho to do joint training exercises. Now, we may construct like a bunker for them to stay in or something like that, some temporary structure, but they are not getting their own independent Air Force base on American soil. They never were. That wasn't what was written in the ceasefire deal. Pete Hegseth misspoke. So I hope this video makes it as far as the other ones that were panic farming about Qatar being able to build a military base in Idaho went, but I highly doubt that. When it comes to military reporting, you can always count on folks like Knitting Cult Lady, Preston Stewart. I will give you the facts when I've got them. If you want to go to mainstream, go to Jennifer Griffin. She's the Fox News reporter inside the Pentagon. She's extremely responsible. Just be careful. And please do not just repeat things that Trump or Hegseth say as infinite fact. Part of journalism is holding power accountable and calling them on their bullshit. Just make sure you know what you're talking about before you talk about it.
Breaking news. And no, this isn't a headline from The Onion. The Trump administration just approved Qatar, yes, that Qatar in the Middle East, to build an Air Force base in Idaho, the same Gulf monarchy where women need a man's permission to travel or get medical care, where being gay is illegal, and where the U.S. once accused them of funding terrorism. And now they get a military base in Idaho. Trump announced it alongside Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, you know, the guy who's been lecturing generals about warrior ethos and making the military lethal again. Let me get this straight. The same people who scream about immigrants invading America just gave a foreign monarchy with actual Sharia law the keys to U.S. soil. The left isn't bringing Sharia law to America. MAGA is, and it's not even subtle.
Okay, this take is spicy and kind of brilliant. Because think about the irony here. For years, the right has been screaming about Muslims, Sharia law, foreign influence. They're going to change our way of life. They don't share our values. And now, they're literally giving a Gulf monarchy where women need permission to travel, where being gay is illegal, a military foothold on U.S. soil. The same people who wanted a Muslim ban are now cheering partnerships with authoritarian Islamic governments. Why? Because their guy said it's okay. That's not principle. That's tribalism. If the other side did this exact same thing, there'd be pitchforks and impeachment calls. But when it's their team, suddenly it's strategic partnership and military cooperation. The hypocrisy isn't just disappointing, it's dangerous. Because it shows that these values, sovereignty, security, American identity, were never actually values. They were weapons, tools to attack opponents. And when you realize that, you start to see the pattern everywhere. The outrage is selective, the principles are flexible, and the only consistency is loyalty to the team.
This one is for all the Donald Trump supporters out there. My friends, my family, my neighbors, my fellow Americans. How does it feel knowing You voted for a guy who said he was America first. But how does it feel knowing you elected a guy who is allowing a Muslim country, Qatar, to build an Air Force base smack dab in the middle of MAGA country?
Hey everybody, I wanted to come on this channel today and do something a little bit different. I normally don't discuss politics. This is normally more of a music channel, but I legitimately have some questions for my MAGA and conservative listeners as to how you would justify this kind of behavior from our current administration. I care deeply about politics. Anybody who knows me can tell you that. I care deeply about the future of this country, and this is something that is highly concerning to me. So today, Pete Hegseth, Trump's Secretary of Defense / and or War now, went on the news and announced for this administration that Qatar would be allowed to build a military airbase in Idaho, central United States. We have never before on the continental U.S. allowed a foreign power to build a military base. And it's not even somebody like a NATO ally, somebody that would be a close ally like Britain or France, somebody that we have shared history and values with.
I woke up this morning. First news that I hear is that Trump has announced that he is going to allow Qatar to build an Air Force base in Idaho that will house Qatari troops on American soil, which is something we don't do. This, in addition to yesterday reading in the news that Trump is building a 100-foot arch across from the Lincoln Memorial, basically to honor himself, and everything else that we hear on a daily basis, the nonsense that is going on. It kind of reminded me, and I am not Christian, but it kind of made me think of, these times are reminding me of the time in the Bible where God sent the flood and wiped everybody out. Except this time, Trump is the flood, and the only ark is being a white, straight, MAGA, Republican, conservative man. If you are not that, you're not in the ark. Anyway, that's my first thought of the day. Isn't that nice?
MAGA, this is why it's not okay for presidents to receive $400 million jets from a foreign government.
Today, we're signing a letter of acceptance to build a Qatari Emiri Air Force facility at the Mountain Home Air Base in Idaho.
Now, there are plenty of examples of seeing Pete Hegseth excited about something. This isn't it. Clearly, he's not thrilled about making this announcement from what appears to be his mother's basement.
Host a contingent of Qatari F-15s and pilots to enhance our combined training, increase lethality, interoperability. Is just another example
of Donald Trump making a decision that works against the best interest of the United States.
Hope you know, Your Excellency, that you can count on us.
Qatar joins a growing list of countries that knows they can count on Donald Trump more than anyone else, regardless of what they do. Despite the fact that our soybean farmers are getting wiped out because China is buying soybeans from Argentina because of Trump's failed tariff policies. Donald Trump uses $20 billion of our tax money to bail out Argentina. And then there's the fact that Donald Trump continued to use our tax dollars to fund a genocide of a country that continued to defy ceasefire orders. In addition to the almost $6 billion a year we give to Israel, who provides free healthcare and education to its citizens, while we have student loan debt out the ass, while millions of U.S. citizens are facing losing their healthcare insurance or being completely unable to afford it due to Trump's potential 112% increase on premiums.
We saw in Midnight Hammer
the largest B-2 bomber attack in American history that in no way benefited the people of the United States of America. Just more of our tax dollars pissed away on behalf of Israel, a country that would soon demonstrate how much they actually respect our country and our president by bombing Qatar without giving Trump any notice whatsoever. Again, something we're doing on behalf of a country whose name you cannot use on social media without getting flagged, without getting a warning, or without your account getting taken down.
Wait, hold on. This is where the conspiracy thinking kicks into overdrive. Look, there's plenty to criticize about foreign policy decisions, military spending, and international alliances. But when people start claiming you can't even mention certain countries without getting banned, that's when we're veering into paranoia territory. Social media platforms have content policies. Sometimes they're overzealous, sometimes they're inconsistent, but there's no grand censorship conspiracy preventing people from discussing geopolitics. Here's the thing. You can criticize policies without inventing persecution narratives. The facts are damning enough on their own. You don't need to add layers of "they're silencing us" rhetoric. When you mix legitimate concerns with unfounded conspiracy theories, you undermine your own credibility. People tune out, and the real issues, like why we're giving military access to countries with questionable records, get lost in the noise. Stick to what's provable. Stick to what's documented. That's how you hold power accountable. Not by claiming you're being censored while literally posting on social media.
You might want to find me on other platforms because I'm not sure how much longer that country will allow me to be on this one.
Welcome to the Pentagon.
And then there's the fact Qatar is tied to 9/11 through private funding. But, Trump got a jet.
We have breaking news right now. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has announced that the Qatari government will build a Qatari Air Force facility on United States soil in Idaho.
And you wonder what the cost of that private jet was. Oh, sorry, booty call. But that was the cost of the private jet. So now, how many bases does America have around the world? It's only fair that someone else build their own base here in America. But yeah, so now we're going to have foreign troops with military bases in America. I believe if China does offer the right incentives and give the right gifts, we would have a Chinese Navy base in New York City or something, maybe LA or something, or Florida. But it's been clear that this man is available. He's willing to sell anything and everything in this country. Everything is for sale. And where my MAGA people, America, military, well, now somebody else's military is coming in your land.
Hey, old white guy here. So remember that that airplane that Qatar gave to the U.S., the current administration, to be a new Air Force One. And people were all upset about it and, calling it a bribe and all of that because, the agreement is that they're giving them this airplane. And then this airplane, once our current president isn't the president anymore, it goes to him. And people said it was a bribe. And yeah, there's nothing to that. I did see today that Qatar is going to now have a Air Force base for their pilots in Idaho. But that's not related at all, because that agreement for them to have an Air Force base on U.S. soil was started a long time ago, long before this Qatar plane gift thing was. They're not related at all. That agreement was started a long time ago. That agreement began to be developed in 2017, long before Qatar gifted Trump the plane. Let's see. Who was president in 2017? So Qatar now is going to have a air base on U.S. soil in Idaho, but it's not related. It's not related that gift of that plane to Trump that people were saying felt like a bribe. That's not related at all. Just saying. So.
Breaking news right now. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has announced that the Qatari government will build a Qatari Air Force facility on United States soil in Idaho. Yes, I'm serious.
I can understand why some people feel uneasy about Qatar building an Air Force base in Idaho. I can.
But here's where it doesn't make any sense. One moment they're furious that Donald Trump is enforcing deportation laws and removing people who are here illegally. In the very next moment, they are outraged that a foreign ally wants to partner with the U.S. on a military facility. Which is it? You know, it's getting really exhausting trying to follow the constant flip-flopping. If the concern is about sovereignty or foreign presence, well, then let's be consistent. Because the truth is, the United States currently operates around 750 military bases across 80 foreign countries and territories. So, before anyone really wants to call this move unprecedented, maybe let's take a look at how often we've done this exact same thing.
Now, this is an interesting point that actually deserves discussion. Because yes, the United States has around 750 military bases in roughly 80 countries worldwide. We have troops stationed across Europe, Asia, the Middle East. We conduct joint training exercises constantly. So the argument is, why is it okay for us to have bases everywhere, but not okay for other countries to train on our soil? Fair question. But here's the nuance. Most of those bases exist because of mutual defense treaties, strategic alliances, and decades of diplomatic relationships. They're not transactional deals that happen right after expensive gifts change hands. The issue isn't whether foreign military training is inherently wrong, it's about the context, the timing, the appearance of quid pro quo. If this Qatar deal was part of a long-standing alliance announced years ago with clear strategic benefits, different conversation. But when it happens months after a $400 million jet is gifted, when the same administration previously called Qatar a terror sponsor, when even supporters are confused, yeah, people have a right to ask questions. Consistency matters. Transparency matters. And we do it too. Doesn't justify questionable decisions. It just means we should be more careful about all of them.
We have breaking news right now. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has announced that the Qatari government will build a Qatari Air Force facility on United States soil in Idaho. Yes, I'm serious. He just made a statement alongside a Qatari official at the Pentagon where he said, quote,
Major breaking news. Pete Hegseth just announced that Qatar, an authoritarian regime that funds extremists, will be authorized to build an Air Force training base on U.S. soil in Idaho. Qatar will have F-15 jets and Qatari pilots training with the U.S. military. Even major Trump meat writers like Laura Loomer have said, this is where I draw the line, stating she doesn't think she'll be voting in 2026 and asking some legitimate questions for the very first time in her life. She's currently going apeshit on Twitter right now. She's posted over 30 times about this topic. I just find it awfully strange how Qatar gave Trump a $400 million plane and now he's letting them build a military base. Comment down below what you think. Follow to stay in the loop.
We have some major news right now. MAGA is turning on Trump again, this time over the Qatari military facility in Idaho. Folks like Laura Loomer and others on the right of the president, many of whom are some of his staunchest supporters online, are declaring everything from they are not voting in 2026 to how dare this administration do this, blasting Pete Hegseth for allowing a Qatari military facility to be built in Idaho. Now, this facility, it's not necessarily uncommon for a foreign government to have troops stationed in the United States. Actually, a number of foreign governments, from the Brits to the Germans, they actually have troops in various training programs on bases in the United States. But this is a stunning one given the fact that Donald Trump just accepted the jet from Qatar, the Air Force One jet. Trump organization just agreed to build a massive golf course in Qatar. The links between the Trump family and the administration and the Qatari government are growing deeper. And even his own supporters aren't happy right now. So spread the word, follow along for more.
This is about the Civil War, so don't scroll. This is very important. Just now, look at this. October 10th, U.S. announces it will allow Qatar to build Air Force Base in Idaho. Okay? Don't forget, in 2017, Trump was saying that they were sponsoring terror. So this is a very peculiar interaction. Don't be fooled, too, about the jet, you know, that they were going to gift him and then he was going to pay for all of this stuff, okay? So here's the thing. California, Oregon, and Washington want to secede, and it would be called Pacifica or Cascadia. This has been around for a long time. They've wanted to secede. If you look, Idaho's right here, right? So it's very probable that this is an anticipatory move, right? In the sense that Qatar would be a mercenary corps that would have no American ties whatsoever, and it could attack because they're giving it all these bombers, right? That's what the training site is for, to attack all the Cascadia Pacifica. Okay. And the reason that is because it's quite likely that at a certain point in the Civil War, the U.S. military would be like, like at least the soldiers would be like, look, I have family here. I'm not going to go and bomb, Portland. It's just absurd. And so this mercenary corps would have no problem doing that. That's exactly what this is. This is a chess move. They're 4 pieces out, like they're 4 moves ahead by putting this here and then saying it's for training only. This is total bullshit, dude. This is for the Cascadia thing. Now, I want you to remember, all of these states are coastal and have access to the nuclear weaponry that's the Navy has. So like nuclear subs and all this. So my biggest thing when I lived in Portland and they called for Cascadia, I was like, oh no, they'll attack us. But now I'm seeing that like, that's what this base is for. But like this whole thing has the potential of going nuclear very fast because of course everybody in power are sociopaths, right? They're like, not sociopaths, I'm sorry. That's actually derogatory to sociopaths. They're psychopaths and they want to kill people. Remember that. That's the difference. A sociopath lacks empathy. A psychopath lacks empathy and enjoys killing people.
Okay, we've officially gone off the deep end. Civil War predictions. Mercenary armies in Idaho preparing to bomb Portland. Nuclear submarines controlled by seceding states. This is full-blown conspiracy theory territory. Look, being skeptical of government decisions is healthy. Questioning foreign policy is necessary. But when you start connecting random dots to create elaborate scenarios about coming civil wars and mercenary corps, you've lost the plot. This is what happens when legitimate concerns get hijacked by apocalyptic thinking. Someone announces a training facility, and suddenly it's proof of an elaborate chess game to suppress secession movements that haven't even happened. Here's the reality. Qatar is not preparing to bomb American cities. Idaho is not hosting a mercenary army. There's no secret plan to attack the West Coast. What there is, a questionable foreign policy decision that looks like it might have been influenced by personal gifts. That's worth discussing. That's worth investigating. But inventing elaborate conspiracy theories doesn't help. It discredits legitimate criticism and makes it easier for people to dismiss all concerns as paranoid rambling. Stay grounded. Stick to facts. Question everything. But don't let skepticism turn into fantasy.